Hi, and welcome back to THU TV. I'm Chris Nichols. I'm hosting the series of talks this week on creativity and technology. I would love to hear your feedback if you guys are enjoying these talks so far. I know Ian Fales did some this morning, and I'm doing some now in the afternoon, and you'll have Haya in the evening, who's going to be doing some great talks there. So I just want to also remind you guys to go check out some of the, if you want to see the actual talks that are going on at THU, that's available on video on demand, and the way to get more information on that is trojan-unicorn.com. I think /TV, if that's not the right URL, go ahead and just click on the TV button and it'll be all set. All right, we're here with Josh from Unity. And let's go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you do at Unity.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us, Chris. So I'm a technical evangelist at Unity. And it's exactly as preachy as it sounds.
Yes.
So I travel the world and teach people how to use Unity and show people how amazing it can be for games and non-games. So right now I'm here at THU TV. Just been in South Africa meeting developers.
Right.
Next week, Stockholm, and many other places after that to spread the word and show people why it's so great.
But as an evangelist, usually people that get those jobs as evangelists, and I know several of them in different industries, get them because they really know the tool and they got that thing. So how did you come to know Unity and how did you start using it yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started using it in university.
Right.
Just making games on the side of my studies. So I was studying computer science at the time in the UK. And we was learning C++, engine development, like OpenGL stuff. But for me, I wanted to make games. And at that time, I was making like rendering, or I was making side engines and stuff like that. So that wasn't happy to me. So I was like, I want to make games. Unity is the best like engine for that, or it's the best tool right now to get those games on different app stores and create a portfolio for myself so I could start making games after university. And then what I did was started with Microsoft as an ambassador, like a student ambassador. So I was doing lots of things around the UK and teaching other students how to make games at that point in time. And then met so many people at Unity, and I was like, this is the only place I want to work. And then I've been doing so for over 3.5 years now.
So 3.5 years you've been doing that. When did you first start using Unity?
It will have been about 5 years ago now, since Unity 3.5.
Okay.
So we've been through quite a lot of iterations since then.
Yeah, what version of Unity is there now?
2017.2, which is currently in beta. So we've gone through 4, 5, and this is kind of like the 6th version. But we're now changed our whole subscription model to be iterative releases.
So Unity is sort of known as a way to create game content, right? So it's almost like an authoring tool in some way, right? And I think that one of the biggest reasons that Unity became so popular is because it is so almost platform agnostic into what it delivers. So you can talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, at the very first release of Unity, it was a Mac-only engine, and at the time everyone was like, "Wow, what are these crazy guys doing?" The three founders.
Right.
And then we slowly introduced other platforms, Windows, and like in the version 2. And then ever since then, from the iPhone release, we supported iPhone, and then the Wii, which was the official dev environment for the Wii. And then from there, we now support like 26 different platforms on PC, mobile, console, VR and AR. And
but you guys really sort of created the first, were known for the first sort of mobile game authoring tool, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like I say, it's we created an amazing environment for people to be able to make games. The editor itself is a really amazing workflow.
Right.
But then also you write in code, all C# or Unity scripts, like a JavaScript variant, and then you can just deploy to all of those platforms with hardly ever changing anything.
Right. And that's quite a feat, actually, to do that.
Yeah, it's a crazy engineering feat.
It's a really big engineering feat, because to the user, or the person using Unity, is like, I'm going to make it for everything, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I think that was what was really interesting, and talk about when Unity sort of became big for the mobile world, right? You saw suddenly a big jump in quality in mobile game content that was coming out. So the quality of games that you're allowed to do with much less knowledge that they needed in the past is suddenly possible. So let's talk a little bit about how Unity, from the early stages, we can talk about what it is later, but from the early stages, how that sort of helped the creative process and what did that do and sort of change the landscape in that way?
Yeah, sure. I think as well, like when we look at kind of like the start of what apps were and what mobile game development was, like a lot of the bigger names or bigger games studios wasn't jumping onto mobile. It was more of just people creating their own smaller games as like hobbyists. And then as soon as mobile got bigger and bigger and the user base of mobile and mobile gaming got huge, then a lot of that was traditionally console or PC game studios went down to mobile for the mass market.
Right.
And then again with the editor and how easy it was to use, a lot more artists to be able to get their work and crunch it into Unity.
So tell me a little bit about the editor. What is that experience like? So if let's say someone says, I'm thinking about making a game or whatever and trying to get into Unity, what kind of a transition, let's say it is a traditional 3D artist, someone who's a Max artist or Maya artist or something, and they want to try to get into Unity and do something. What would they need to learn or to get into it and be able to do and publish their own games?
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I mean, first of all, we open up a blank slate. We open up like the default editor, completely fresh.
Yeah.
And then we can pull in various different files, so like an FBX or an OBJ file, which is like pretty standard for Max or Maya or whatever. And then you can pull it into your scene and you can witness straight away what that model looks like in your scene. So you can press play, you can add an animation on, and there we go, it's animated in your world.
Right.
Straight away you can add components onto it through the hierarchy in the inspector. So you can add physics, you can add rendering, you can adjust all your lighting and make it look really pretty with different cameras, different post-processing effects on.
Right.
And then so from there you would need to code, so you would need to add in like interactivity, your input, things like that. But for an artist just to get started and to demo their work in Unity is really, really simple.
Well, that's very interesting. So if you want to go a step further and you say, you know what, I'm going to do it all by myself, right? What coding would you need to know to get into it?
So the default scripting language is C#.
C#, okay.
Yep. And then we've got so many tutorials on our website on unity3d.com.
Right.
And we've got tutorials to suit everyone's needs, from very, very simple 2D tutorials all the way down to optimizing Unity for like hardcore programmers.
Right.
But then also the community. Like the best thing about the Unity engine, the Unity environment is the huge community that puts stuff on YouTube. They write their own tutorials. They comment on the forums and Unity Answers and Stack Overflow as well.
Right.
So like if there's anything you ever need, like I still do this myself, Unity, how to do this in the search engine, and you can find an answer straight away.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really great. Well, what's interesting now is obviously because it's become so popular and a lot of people have started using it, and it's become sort of an interesting way of creating all kinds of content that's available on many platforms. People are starting to look at it as a means of creating stuff beyond games, right? So if you're looking beyond games, what's probably interesting to a company like Unity is you're probably getting a lot of people that you did not necessarily expect as customers, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. What are you seeing, and what use cases do you see within those different industries?
Yeah. So like, I mean, first of all, like we traditionally have been a game engine, like that's our business, where now we think that we're more of an interactive rendering solution,
right?
Like real-time rendering for film, animation, AR, VR, everything possible that people can create. So yeah, I've visited many studios. I've visited NASA recently, JPL, that are making HoloLens applications where they're taking the height map data from Mars and all of the photos that the Mars rover is taking and putting that into the HoloLens for people to view all around the world.
Wow.
It's absolutely insane. And then we're going into movie studios and seeing how people are creating VR animations and interactive animations. So it's not just a linear story. The person taking part in the experience is actually driving the story by what they're doing in the scene.
Right. So like virtual production.
Yeah,
in a lot of
exactly.
ways, right? Yeah, I think that's really a fascinating thing on virtual production. There's a lot of people that are sort of looking at solutions of interactive solutions to do virtual production that I think is going to be critical to how we make movies. It's going to be a game changer in a lot of things. Obviously, I also used to come from the architecture background. I used to be an architect, and I know that architects are actually looking at Unity as well. So what are some of the things that you're seeing people in the architecture world do?
Yeah, we've seen it for many years actually, especially architecture has been kind of one of the driving forces for things that are non-games. People being able to bring in their CAD models and render it in real time so they can and go and take it to a client and saying, oh yeah, you don't like this sofa here, maybe we can turn it around, and everything, all of the lighting updates in real time.
Right.
And then obviously with all the post-processing stack, all of the flying camera systems with the animation, putting it into VR, instantly you just tick one button to say virtual reality supported, you press play in the editor and you can witness it in VR as well.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because yes, you're right. If you think about it, shouldn't necessarily be that complicated for rendering it to go to VR. All you're doing is just creating a different camera, a different viewing system. But what I think is also interesting is the fact that compared to a game, as an example, you don't really need to add a huge amount of interactivity to this process.
Exactly, yeah. You could just have your generic first-person controller, which comes with our standard assets.
Right.
As long as you know how to import the model and set up some lighting.
And then you can just walk around.
Yeah, exactly.
And therefore, you are now created an interactive experience.
That's right,
and that's it. And so your need for programming is even less.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
Or almost nothing at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the asset store, you could download some visual scripting editors.
Okay.
So you can literally do it all with drag and drop. What you see is what you get editor.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating. I really think it's really cool. I am actually sort of interested in some of the other creative tools that you guys have. So if someone wants to create things and think of the fact that you can think of Unity as a creative tool as opposed to just an authoring tool. So what are some of the other tools that are available for people who want to create things inside of Unity?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I absolutely love VR content creation. So things like Tilt Brush and Medium by Oculus and Blocks by Google as well.
Right.
Like those tools for artists that they can put on a headset and they can use 3D modeling packages and with their hands, not just sat there at a desk using a mouse and keyboard.
Right.
They can move around a full 3D environment and then export that into Unity.
Right.
And then they can manipulate it again with Editor VR. So the whole process can be in VR. You're creating the content, bring it into Unity, and then you can manipulate it further in virtual reality in the actual editor.
Yeah, I spoke to the Unity guys earlier. I'm sorry, not the Unity, the Tilt Brush guys earlier, and they were talking about that process. I really think it's fascinating that you take it and instead of taking it back to another 3D application, you take it right into Unity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so it becomes directly part of your interactive experience in some ways.
Yeah, it's amazing. And creatives and artists can have really great control of the whole workflow. Instead of just passing it off to programmers and saying, implement this into the engine, they can have so much more control and a say in what's going to be going forward for the artistic vision.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that you're seeing that are going to become trends, do you think, in this market that would be interesting for you to explore?
A lot of it is like business use cases as well. Mm-hmm. So people using game engine technology for creating training simulations. So I recently saw one where it's like an oil rig simulator. So instead of sending their new employees out on a helicopter to the North Sea to be on an oil rig, they're using that just in a classroom, computer and mouse, to guide them around the safety procedures.
So it's virtualizing a lot of these things.
Exactly,
virtual training. That's another thing I find interesting. If you think about the idea of making it safer to do things, I know that they were even looking at it, the ISS simulator.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm friends with some of the guys at Magnopus, so I know what's going on. But just the idea of like simulating an environment, it's like, it's a little expensive to take someone to space to train them.
Exactly,
or even just creating it in the pool can be expensive. But if you just put a VR headset on and try to do the training that way, it's kind of cool.
And what's really amazing now is people are kind of coming around to the idea of using game engine technology. Because often you'd be like, oh, Unity can do this. And like, oh, but that's a game engine. We're not really sure about game engines.
So do you still think that that's a stigma that you guys are overcoming?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's what one of my jobs is, to go to these more business-focused VR conferences and marketing conferences and show people like the true power of what a game engine can do and real-time technology can do.
Right.
And that's why we're talking to so many film and animation creators, because instead of rendering each frame for 30 hours,
Sure.
they can render it near enough instantly in Unity.
Right, they can, but I'll tell you this as someone who works for V-Ray, there are certain limitations.
Of
Obviously,
course, yeah.
Right?
But we're progressing that all of the time.
Of course. So my philosophy about that is that basically I'm saying, will real-time rendering replace offline rendering? And I say, yes, of course it will. It will replace it. Eventually people are not going to wait for renders. But will rasterize rendering replace ray tracing? And I say no, because I think ray tracing is the end goal in a lot of cases. Now, rasterized rendering is a very good solution. I used to use a rasterized renderer for years, but sometimes it does take a little bit longer, and there's ray tracing that's sort of needed. I still feel that there's a place. I'm very fascinated by what's going on in things like Unity, because I think there's a place for rendering there that goes beyond ray tracing. And so that's the other thing that I find is for technology companies to come together and think about that, because I think that there's some really good collaborations that can happen with all kinds of companies that do all kinds of things. And you guys are offering you're offering a glue in a lot of ways where we can sort of put all of these different tools together that go beyond even that.
Yeah,
so.
sure. And I'm really up for cross collaboration between so many companies in different areas. Like all of our VR stuff, for example, we're working with all of the major platforms to make sure that the VR standard is set across the world, really, because then we can all benefit from that if we're all working together.
Right.
And like you say, with like ray tracing rendering, working together, lots of different companies, they can make the whole industry 10 times better. And
Absolutely.
then work their own strands off that, depending.
And there's probably, I mean, you guys already probably have several Unity plugins, I'm sure, that people can work with inside of things. So that's the way it needs to work. It's like take Unity and make all this stuff come together and then put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like with our SDKs previously, everything was quite segregated between our Oculus SDK, our Vive SDK, our Gear VR SDK, and we're now bringing that all just under the hood, very cross-platform. As soon as you tick that button, that can work for any one of those platforms.
Oh, that's
with
nice.
those companies. Yeah.
So therefore, you can publish to multiple platforms pretty quickly. So,
yeah, exactly.
So you're almost dealing with the VR platforms in the same way that you're dealing with the previous mobile platforms and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then the AR stuff as well. Now we're working very close with Foria. We've got compatibility for the AR kit and the Google AR stuff as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds great. I'm curious about what's going to happen with AR. Well, tell me a little bit what you're feeling about AR and how Unity's. Obviously, you mentioned the NASA project, right? But tell me your feelings about AR and how do you think that market's going to go?
Yeah, I think for me personally, AR is just going to transform our lives entirely. Maybe not anywhere near in the next few years, but in 10, 15 years.
Okay.
Like we're all going to be having wearables.
Sure.
Either glasses or.
So you really think that's going to be how we walk around?
I think so, definitely. I think things like maybe like the Google Glass was maybe before its time. I think if that's
maybe a little
bit, a few more years, then.
But it did bring up a lot of interesting issues, right? And then even
privacy
ethical issues, right?
Security. Yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, for me, I think VR is going to be more entertainment based, and AR is going to be part of our daily lives. Like everything that we do, work, play, like it's going to be there.
Okay, cool. I guess I'll see how much time we have left. I'm not sure how much time we have left. Yeah. Oh, okay, we're good. We got plenty of time. So tell me a little bit about your THU. What you've been seeing here and what you're looking forward to.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'd never really heard of the conference before until about a month ago.
Yeah.
When I found out that we're going to take part. So I looked about it. I asked some people in the industry, and then I was kind of sold on it near enough straight away.
Right.
So I'm super happy to be here. We've met so many different people from different industries as well.
Right.
It's really been amazing because I mean I mainly look after games and VR AR in games. So seeing movie makers, animation creators, just generic like really talented artists as well that are not really into like games or the engineering side of things. It's been quite inspiring to be here. So I think I need to pick up my notepad and pencil to start sketching again. I've not done that for some time.
Yeah, and it's interesting because those guys are, obviously you said there are a lot of very artist people, and you guys are sort of trying to make an effort to make it more artist friendly in a way. And what do you think you want to take away from here in terms of how you're going to get people to to use this and understand it in a lot of ways. What do you think people want to do with this tool?
Yeah, sure. I mean, people have been just coming up to me and be like, oh yeah, I'd love to use Unity, but I'm just not sure on the technical limitations of what I can do. So for them, it's more about the confidence of themselves being able to overcome it.
Right.
So as soon as I open up my laptop, I'm like, oh, actually, you can bring in your model with this. You can add a Cinemachine camera on, like a procedural camera to rotate around.
Right.
All codeless. Use the timeline sequencer to sequence lots of animations one after another and blend them.
Right.
Again, it's all codeless, and as soon as I show them this, they're like, "Oh wow, I can definitely
You can
get my
do
head
this.
around that."
So that's nice. You've been able to show people exactly what to do.
Yeah,
Have you been able to take their assets and say, look how easy it is to do something like that?
We've just brought our own assets.
You just
right
brought
now,
your own
but
assets, right?
I'd love to follow up with so many of them. We've been recording some trips and tips for THU TV,
Right.
which is really awesome, and we've been helping out with the collabs as well. So
Oh, good. Collab.
The,
What do you think about collabs?
it's absolutely amazing. Like, I'm one of the biggest fans of game jams. I take part in game jams all around the world.
Right.
So have it here as well and have so many different artists as well taking part. There's like 10 people on each team.
I know.
And some of the concepts that we've already seen in just 24 hours has been outstanding.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to see how those people are just like, all right, let's jam one out, you know. And they're making content in what, 4 days, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to see the finished product.
So so let's go through this one more time. If people want to sort of learn more about it, where should they go? And first of all, you can just get Unity for free right now. Right?
Yeah, that's right. So we offer 3 versions. So we've got the personal edition, which is completely free to everybody. It's fully featured, so there's no difference technically between the free, the plus version, the pro version. And it just all depends on what your income is as an individual or a studio for that. So if you're a freelancer, if you're a person who wants to get into Unity, you can download it for absolutely free, and you pay when you're successful.
You pay when
that's all about democratization of game development, right?
Well, I think it's a really interesting solution to do that.
Yeah,
Obviously, you guys were one of the first people to do that, and I think it really sort of set the standard, right? Because I remember when I was way back in the day when I was in architecture and I was trying to say, maybe I want to try to use a game engine and do something, and you had to license it, and it cost $500,000. Seriously, just to license it. It was insane.
Yeah, I mean, when the founders created the company like 12 years ago, that was the goal. Like, we want to make it as easy as possible for creators to make games.
I think it's brilliant, especially when you started going to the mobile market where everyone's like, I want to make money, right? So it was cool to sort of see that. And there's also, obviously, once you get it, so great, it's free, which is incredible. And then, what are your best resources that you have found to just get started, learn things, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So our tutorials on unity3.com/learn.
Okay.
They're all video-based and text-based. So depending on what your learning method is, you can watch the video, follow along, or you can just read the documentation.
Okay.
Just jump in with a game jam, make a game, see how it goes.
And then generally, and the authoring, obviously, you guys offer us all the authoring that goes almost directly to the stores, right?
Near enough, yeah. So you basically export the package, depending on what it is, EXE or an APK.
Okay.
And you can upload it to the store from there.
Oh, okay. I got it. All right. Well, we're going to get close to wrapping up here. I think we're going to take a small break.